Okay, good evening everyone, and we are back in the weekly Parsha with some chizuk and yetz Hashem for all the things that are going on in Klal Yisrael, and we're in PARSHAS VAYIGASH, which is the monumental Parsha in which Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, and the brothers have to come to grips with the fact that everything that they did, all of their planning, all of their plotting, all of their insidious designs to get rid of Yosef and Tzaddik, it all failed. Not only failed, but it failed miserably. To such an extent that the man that they tried to kill, at least to sell him as a slave and get rid of his memory forever, he ends up being the second in command. He's like Paro's right-hand man. He's got the crown, he's got the cloak, he's got it all going for him. He's exactly the opposite of what they had in mind is going to happen. And I'd like to focus in on one Maimar Chazal, one statement that the sages say that appears in 3 different places in Shas. The Rashi explains it differently in every single place that it is quoted. And I think that we'll see that Yosef HaTzadik is the embodiment of these words of Chazal to teach his brothers how to look at the incidences and the situations of life. The Gemara tells us the very famous words. The Gemara, again, like I said, it appears in 3 different places. We'll start with the Gemara in Brachos. And the Gemara in Brachos says, Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina says the following statement, and that is, Hakol biyidei Shemayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, chutz miyiras Shemayim, except for the fear of heaven, the fear of God itself. We're all very familiar with these words. Rashi on the Gemara Brachos says the following: Kol haba ala adam, everything that happens to a person, biyidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all in the hands of Hashem. Kagoin aroich, where how tall he is, katzar, how short he is, ani, if he's going to be poor, asher, if he'll be rich, chacham, he'll be wise, shait, he'll be a fool, lavan, if he'll be white, shachar, if he'll be black, hakol biyidei shemayim. Everything about this person's life, every single detail of who they are and what they are and where they live and how they live and who their parents are and who their children, everything about this person, it's all coming b'yidei shemayim from in the hands of heaven. However, ezu maser biyada shel adam. But there's one thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts into the hands of man. Aval tzadik v'rasha einoi ba al yidei shemayim. Whether you'll be righteous or whether you'll be a rasha, whether you'll be wicked, that does not come through HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. As a maser biyada shel adam, this HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given over into the hands of man. V'nasan lefanav shnei drachim, he placed in front of us 2 pathways. V'yivchar lo yiras shemayim, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to choose the right path. That's the path of yiras shemayim, the fear of Hashem and heaven. But that's up to you. I will decide every single detail of your life, says the Ribbono Shel Olam. How you are going to look and where you're going to be born and who your parents are going to be and what kind of a job you're going to get and how much money is going to be in your pocket and all the nisyonos, all of the struggles of life. I'll decide all of that. You don't have to work on that, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there's one thing that you have that is accessible to you, and that is whether or not you are going to respond to the situations that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts you in your life with yiras shemayim, with the fear, the awe, the reverence of the Ribbono Shel Olam, or you're going to fall apart and you're not going to be able to handle what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to you. Whether or not, they have these things, I think you can get these contact lenses that are blue or green. Probably now they have pink and yellow, whatever it is. If you don't like the fact that Hashem gave you brown eyes, so you can just put a lens in there and you can change it to blue. Is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from a person? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, every single detail in your life, I decided. I've given it to you, and I gave it to you for a reason. Every situation, every person you will encounter, every challenging moment that you will have in your life, it is all decided, Ba b'yidei Shemayim, coming in the hands. Hashem's handing it to you. How are you going to respond? That's the only thing that you have control over. I can't control your response. I cannot make you accept it with emunah, with faith. I cannot give you the inner strength if you're not looking for it or asking for it, to look at it in a mature and a proper way. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's only one person responsible for that, and that is you, says Hashem. That's the Gemara in Brachos. The Gemara in Nida brings down the same exact Chazal, and Rashi over here writes different words. And he says, Hakol b'yidei Shemayim, everything that happens in one's life is b'yidei Shemayim, is in the hands of heaven. Says Rashi, Kol midoisav, all of your midos, your character traits, v'koroisav, and all of the events that will happen in your life, shel adam, of a person, bayin loy begezeras melech, they come as a decree from the king. You have none less than the king of the universe that is decreeing every single detail of your life. Kol korois, of all of the events. You think about this, that means from birth until 120, the end of life. Every single event that transpires, every moment of your day, every second of your life, it's all Gzeres HaMelech. It is a decree from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that you have no control over. It's all coming directly from Hashem. Chutz mizu, except for one thing, and that, as we're saying over here, is Yiras Shemayim. Yiras Shemayim, we're understanding of it, that means the fear, the awe of Hashem. It means how you are going to choose to deal with everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is geyser, that He decreed upon you. That's in your hands. That's in nobody else's hands. People can encourage you. They can impact your life. They can inspire you. They can try to show you a better way to look at things. All true. But it's in your hands. Everything else in the hands of Hashem. This is in your hands. That's the Gemara in Nida. The Gemara in Megillah says over the same exact statement, and that is Hakol b'yidei Shemayim chutz b'yiras Shemayim. And Rashi writes on this Gemara over here, chutz b'yiras Shemayim, except for the fear of Hashem. Oisa misore b'yidei Adam. This is what is handed over, what is given over into the hands of man. Shehu atzmai meichin libay lekach. The person themselves must prepare their heart for the ability to handle every situation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts them through in the proper way. Even though there's nothing that is beyond HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And He, in fact, could really prepare our hearts properly, so that we'll be prepared for a time when He puts us through a challenge, or He puts us in a situation, or something goes catastrophically wrong, chas v'chalila. He could have prepared us in advance, that we'll be ready for it. Like He writes, we're like the clay in the hand of the sculptor. Like that's the way that it is, Klal Yisrael, in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nevertheless, says the Torah, I'm leaving it up to you. I can do everything, says Hashem. I created the world, I'm running the world, I'm watching everybody, I'm involved in everyone's life. There's nothing that is beyond me. If I want to give you the strength in your heart to be able to withstand Kol karoisav, everything that will happen in your life, and kol midoisav, all of your midos, your character traits, your personality, your quirks, your faults, your successes. If I want to create the ability within inside of you to be able to handle that, I can do that, says Hashem. However, says the Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm leaving it up to you. And that's all you have in your hands. You have nothing else in your hands. Everything else is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything in this world is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every detail, every nuance, every second, every moment, every breath of life, every success, every failure, every inspiration, every downfall, every avera, everything is Hashem. But how you deal with it, how you confront it, how you understand it, how you process it, how you will learn from it, how you will grow from it, how you make yourself into a greater person as a result, that I cannot do for you, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have to leave you something in this world. That I'm leaving you. In the very pivotal moment in this week's Parsha, when Yosef HaTzadik is ready to reveal himself, and he does reveal himself, and the brothers, they fall back in horror and dismay. They can't believe it. How could it be? The man that they threw into the pit with scorpions and snakes, the one that they sold as a slave, the one that they wished, like a voodoo doll they had of Yosef, like poking it every day for 22 years, hoping that he's never going to appear again. This person, Yosef HaTzadik, suddenly is standing in front of them, and he is the top of the echelon of all of Egyptian society. He's the leader. How did that happen? So they get nervous. And they get nervous that Yosef is going to take revenge against them. Because he has power. He's got a high position. There's nobody around. The father's not around. No one's around. He already sent everybody out of the room. They were afraid. The reason that Yosef sent everybody out of the room is because he wants to destroy them. But Rashi tells us, couldn't be farther from the truth. The reason that Yosef sent all of his brothers, everybody out of the room, when he revealed himself to his brothers, is because he knew his brothers will be so embarrassed. They will be so shamed when they see Ani Yosef ha'oira avichai. I am Yosef, is my father still alive? They will not be able to believe what they see. They will be so embarrassed. Yosef said, I cannot embarrass my brothers in front of all the people in this room. Everybody out. Yosef was holding in his mind, in every single second, he was holding, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me right now? And at that moment he realized, send everybody out of the room, my brothers who ruined my life. I can't embarrass them. They tried to kill me. I won't embarrass them. No, I cannot embarrass them, because that's an Isser in the Torah to embarrass another person. I'm not going to take any revenge. Nothing. But Yosef answers to his brothers, and he tries to explain to them, don't be afraid. There's nothing at all for me to be upset about. And he tells them, V'yishlacheni Elokim livnechem. How do you think I got here? You think that you sent me? You think with all your devious plans, you were the ones that caused my downfall into Mitzrayim? Chas v'shalom. You don't do anything. Vayishlacheni Elokim livnechem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me here before you, lasum lechem sheris ba'aretz, to leave a place in the land, lachayos lechem lifleit l'gdoila, so that we should be able to live over here. The ata, and now you need to understand this. He tells them, Loi atem shalachtem oisi. Heina, you are not the ones who sent me here. Ki Elokim, rather Elokim, the master of the universe, is the one that sent me down to Mitzrayim. What do you mean Hashem sent him down to Mitzrayim? His brothers abducted him. They wanted to kill him. They changed their mind. They tear up his coat. They put it into blood. They throw him into the pit. They sell him down to the Yishmaelim who take him down to Mitzrayim. What do you mean Elokim? Hashem is the one that sent you there. V'yasimeni la'av leparoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me here, that I should become second in command to Paro, to rule over his whole house, to be a ruler over all of the land of Egypt. That's why you're in Mitzrayim. That's not why you're in Mitzrayim, Yosef. You're in Mitzrayim because your brothers had plans. They did mechiras Yosef. They sold you as a slave. You're Yosef HaTzadik. And that's how you got down to Mitzrayim. Where do you see Elokim in this whole story? It's like the exact opposite. How could the shift they call it the 10 brothers, the tzaddikim of Yosef HaTzadik, how could they do such a thing? Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Perush, let me explain to you the words of the Torah. La says tam lahasa milibam chashash hasina. Yosef HaTzadik is explaining to his brothers a reason why they should know that he has no hatred at all towards his brothers. He did not want them to think that he despised them. Because they were so cruel, the way that they dealt with him. They could not believe, they would not be able to fathom, the brothers, that Yosef, his heart would be together with them. They could not believe that Yosef would be so loving and forgiving and understanding, that he would embrace them with achva, with brotherhood. They wouldn't believe such a thing. That's why he told them, it's true. At the time that you sold me, when that whole incident was going on, it was very strange to me. What are my brothers doing over here? They're taking me and they're trying to make me like I'm a dead man. They're throwing me into a pit with scorpions and snakes. They're whisking me out of the pit and selling me as a slave in the back of the caravan of the Arabs. What is going on over here? How could my brothers be so cruel to do such a thing? And because how cruel they were and how wicked they did to him, of course Yosef should hate them. However, now, now that we can look back in hindsight and see everything that has occurred since I came down to Egypt, I realize that everything that transpired in my life is me'es Hashem, is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. These words are only the Or HaChaim could say. They were the shluchim, the messengers of Hashem. Also, they did the shlichus, the service of Hashem. They were not doing their own job. They were doing the job of the Ribbono Shel Olam, and they were not doing what it appeared on the surface they were doing. And because of this, I have no hatred, no anger. I don't despise you at all. And therefore I refuse to distance the brotherhood and the love between us, says Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik understood more than anybody else, perhaps in the history of the world. Because it's very easy to look at this event, as he says, at the time that it was happening, I said to myself, what in the world is going on over here? Which brothers do this to their brother? And we're not talking about inner city brothers. We're talking about Shiftei Kah, the greatest people of all time. They are tzaddikim, gemurim, each and every one of them. That's why Yaakov Avinu is the one that is zeicher to have the shvatim, that he didn't have an Esav, he didn't have a Yishmael, he had 12 tzaddikim. Tzaddikim don't act in this way. What happened over here? Says Yosef, you know what happened? HaKadosh Baruch had a plan. And in order for that plan to happen, you had to act in the most erroneous of ways to do the shlichus, to do the job and the service of Hashem. Hakol b'yidei Shemaim. Everything is in the hands of heaven. Everything, kol koirosav, umidosav, every event, every situation, every trauma in one's life, it's all coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's nothing that you can do about that. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants something to happen, he will sometimes, as the as the Das Tavuna says, the Ramchal, he will sometimes suspend the laws of Bechira, the laws of spiritual nature, to get what he wants to take place in this world. He will allow 10 brothers to come together and sell their brother Yosef. Says Yosef Atzadik, but my dear brothers, take a look. Ata, now that we can see clearly what's going on over here, now that we understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing, He sent me down here for a purpose. To prepare Mitzrayim during the years of famine. To make sure that everyone's going to have what they need. So that you'll be able to come down and we'll get you a place to live. We'll build you up on Mishpacha, a nation called Klal Yisrael. Think about it for a moment. If Klal Yisrael would not have gone down to Mitzrayim, Yaakov and all of his sons would not have gone down to Mitzrayim, where would Klal Yisrael be? We became a nation in Egypt. We became multiplicable. We became great and gigantic, and we multiplied beyond belief. Millions and millions and millions of Jews as a result of coming to Mitzrayim. Says Yosef Atzadik, maybe at the moment that it was happening, it was very hard to say, Hakol b'yidei Shemayim. Because you were so involved and you were so active and you were so proactive about everything. But at the end of the day, I realized, Hakol b'yidei Shemayim, it's all Hashem. And therefore, not only am I not angry with you, I'm not angry with you at all. On the other hand, I'm gracious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He did what He did, because that's why I'm in the position that I'm in today. And I don't hate you, I love you, says Yosef Atzadik. I cannot control the events that will take place in my life. I cannot know from one moment to the next what exactly is going to happen. I can't know these things. But one thing I could know is nothing will ever happen unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu wills that it should take place. And if that's the case, so then Hashem doesn't make mistakes. Everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is good. I might not always be comfortable with the goodness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to me. Nevertheless, the only thing I have in my hands is my Yirah Shemayim. How will I respond to the situation at hand? How will I? I am sure that everybody is well aware of the great tragedy that happened in Gaza this week, where the IDF went in to kill terrorists, and sadly there was 3 of our own hostages that were shoved out into a line of fire. And as anybody that understands what goes on in war will know, that a soldier has split seconds, maybe not even that much, to decide exactly where and who he's going to shoot at. And Hamas, Yamach Shemam, they took these hostages, who, by the way, were full bearded at the time, because it's been 2 months already since they had a shave. So they look like any other Arab that is out there in the fields. They're civilian terrorists, they are Hamas terrorists, there's guns firing, there's RPGs that are flying. It's a chaotic situation. And in a moment of chaos, in a moment of split-second decision-making, so these 3 hostages who survived 2 months in captivity, they tragically were killed. Of course, if you look at the world media, so let's blame everything on the IDF, it's all their fault. But it's really not. Everybody understands that. Hamas does what they do, and they stick people in to this place and to that place, and they end up getting us into a situation where the results are irreversible. But I am sure, I imagine that many of you saw the statement of one of the mothers of one of the young men who was killed so tragically just the other day by the IDF troops. There's a woman named Iris Haim, and she was the mother of a boy named Yotam. And he was tragically killed by these soldiers. It was a mistake. It was an error. It was a situation where nobody could understand how to see within the line sight that these are Jews. It's not possible to understand these things in split second when wars and the bullets are flying. It's impossible to understand. So this mother sent a message, a heartwarming message to the IDF. Her son was 28 years old and he was killed. But she sent the following message, expressing her love and her forgiveness for the soldiers. And she says, I am Yotam's mother. And I wanted to tell you that I love you very much. And I hug you here from afar. She absolved the soldiers of any blame. She says there's no responsibility that you bear. I know that everything that happened is absolutely not your fault. And it's nobody's fault except that of Hamas. May the name be wiped out and the memory be erased from the earth. And she encourages the soldiers, look after yourselves, think all the time that you're doing the best in the world, and the best thing that could happen, you could help us. Because all of Klal Yisrael needs you, and stay healthy. And she says, don't hesitate for a second if you see a terrorist. Don't think that you killed a hostage deliberately. You have to look after yourselves, because only that way can you look after us. A mother who lost a son, she is 2 months. Who knows if she even slept the last 2 months? Who knows if she had one single day of menuchas and nefesh, of peace of mind? Who knows how many tears she shed, how much weight she lost, how much anxiety she had? Who knows how many times she checked the news day in and day out, how many times she checked her phone to see if she was getting any message? Who knows how this woman might have driven herself crazy over the last 2 months? Who knows? And her response is, Hakol b'yidei Shemayim. I don't blame you for what you did. I don't judge you for what you did. I understand that there's a higher power that is running this world. And what happened is happened, and it's not your fault. And therefore, I'm not angry. I'm not upset with you. I will not hold any grudges. And I want you to keep doing what you're doing, and don't second guess yourself for a minute. If you see someone that looks like a terrorist, shoot him and kill him, because maybe he'll kill you first. If you're going out to battle, don't be nervous, don't be shaky, don't be weak. Because the weak and the shaky, they cannot fight in war. Know from me, the mother of a boy that was killed, not by you. You want to call it Hamas, you want to call it, those are the shluchim, those are the messengers, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is running everything. And when a person sees that, so then they realize that all that's left in their life is the Hakol b'yidei Shemayim. And nobody is going to judge you or be angry. Not me, not my husband Raviv, not my daughter Noya, not Yotam, may his memory be blessed, not Tuval, his brother. We love you very much. V'ze'u, and that is all. Says the Torah. And Yosef HaTzadik is teaching over this message to Klal Yisrael. And that message is that you might see things that look like there are people that are pulling the strings. It will look like people are doing the actions and the activities. It will look like people are the ones that are causing you this grief, causing you this pain, challenging you in such ways. It will look like that. But it's not true. Like the Or Chaim writes, that as he says, they were doing the job of Hashem, not their own job. Everything that's happening in our lives is the Rebbeinu Shalom, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu just wants to know, how are you going to respond and react to this situation? And that's why at the end of Sefer Bereishis, towards the very end of Vayechi, after Yaakov Avinu gets buried, the brothers return from the burial, and they're very nervous. They said to themselves, look, okay, as long as Yaakov was alive, so our brother was feigning that he believes in Hashem and everything is min hashemayim, and he's not going to be upset with us, he's not going to get angry with us. But he didn't want to make a chil Hashem to his father. He didn't want to upset Yaakov anymore after 22 years of being separate from him. So he was telling all this Amunah stuff. But now we know the truth. Our father is dead, and Yosef at Tzaddik is gonna let us have it. Now our father's not going to see what's going to happen. Now the truth is going to come out. He really is not so forgiving. He's really not so loving. He really doesn't believe that everything is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he says this is all the shlichus of Hashem. Now he's going to get us. The brothers came before Yosef and they fell before Yom. We'll be your slaves. Just don't kill us. We'll be your slaves. Yosef. And Yosef says to his brothers, quite calmly, Al tirou, do not fear. Ki asachas Elokim ani. Am I in place of Hashem? Am I in place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Didn't I tell you already before that everything that happens in life is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I understand that everything that you did is really the will of Hashem? Says Rav Hirsch on this pasuk, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can judge a person's thoughts and their intentions. But I, as a human being, I can only see the result of what you did. And in that respect, I owe you a great amount of gratitude. Because you made me Yosef, second in command, leader over the country of Mitzrayim. I have power, I have everything. I saved the world. I saved you. I got you a place called Goshen to live in. The Jewish people are going to thrive. And it's all because of me, says Yosef. Am I in place of Hashem? Can I know what your real kavanas were? There's only one thing I can know. I can see the results. And the results are you did what you did, and I ended up where I am. I have no tainas. I have no complaints. I have no anger. I have no dissident. I have nothing with you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is running the world in perfection. Imagine if we would live with this idea. Imagine if we would live with the idea that whatever a person does to us in our lives is decreed, gezeraisav shel melech. It's a gezer, decree of Hashem. Imagine that we would not live, we would believe in the depths of our hearts. Like Rabbi Akiva says, that called the Ovid, Rachmana Latav Ovid, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, it's all for the good, literally all for the good. Whatever Hashem does, wherever He takes us in life, wherever the journey is going to lead us, whatever roadblocks are going to be along the way, HaKol, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, it's all good. Because it's all from Shemayim. So anything that comes from Shemayim is good because mi piulo teitze rose, from the mouth of Hashem, no bad has ever come. So why would He do bad to you? If Hashem never did bad in the world for thousands of years, why would He do bad to you? Elamai, it must be, says the Gemara, says Chazal, says Rashi, explains the Torah, says Yosef HaTzadik, it must be every single detail in one's life. It's all good. It's all from Hashem. He designed everything precisely, exactly the way that it's supposed to be for you, tailor-made, no mistakes. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's only one thing I'm asking of you. What's your response? What do you take? What's the takeaway, as they say? What are you going to do? Are you going to daven more? Are you going to guard yourself more? You know, we're learning Bava Kama right now. You have a shore that's a tam. You have a shore that is an ox, that is a non-goring ox. And it goes one day, and it goes and it gores another ox, and it kills it. So what do you do now? You just mind your own business and let the ox go and keep goring oxen all over the place? You're supposed to up the level of shmira, of guarding that you do to make sure the ox doesn't go and gore again. Now it goes and gores a second time. Hello, Farmer John, did you get the message over here? Your ox is out of control. Yeah, okay, I'll lock the gate behind him when I go to sleep tonight. You wake up in the morning, you finally go to another again. Now we say, now you have a muad, now you have an ox that is called a goring ox. You are responsible every single time. Nezik Sham, you have to pay full price. Because you're careless. You saw the writing on the wall. You were supposed to guard the ox to make sure that it doesn't go and kill. And you did not respond in the proper way. For that, you get punished. For that, you have to pay more money. For that, your ox he's a bad ox now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I send messages all day long. I send messages and messages and messages. People come in and things happen and situations arise. Difficulties pop up. Things don't go the way that I want them to. Yeah, there's blessings and brachas and all the good things. And all of that is also responsibility for a person. I send them all day long. It's coming. Gzeras HaMelech, decrees of the king. Says the Ribbon Shel. So what are you going to do? What's the response? Do we hear the messages of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Do we see? Do we stop? Do we take stock? Or do the emotions start welling up inside of us? Oh, how could they do that? How could they say this? How could that happen to me? Why Hashem? Hashem says, no. Everything that I'm doing, Hakol, the Ovid, Rachmana, V'tav Ovid, it's all good, my friends. But your response is what I'm trying to get from you. I want to see how you're going to deal with that which I have given you. The Das Torah, which is Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, he writes even a little bit more fascinating in what a tzaddik Yosef was, how he dealt and how he handled, how he understood, and how he went through everything. He processed all the information. And he says like this. Again, this is going on the part in the parsha this week where the brothers are falling back in a horror. They can't believe this is Yosef HaTzadik. Nivhalu, they are confounded. When the brothers of Yosef, they failed by selling him. With all of the things that resulted from it, when they realized that they were in the hands of Yosef, they saw how Yosef, he explained the whole thing that they did in the best possible way. And he explained to them the following. V'ata, don't be sad, don't be excited. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who sent me over here. Hashem made me second in command. Listen to the words of Rabbi Yerucham. Hafach kol hadavar min hakatza lakatza. Yosef HaTzadik, he turns everything around. Ki achre kol hacheshbonis v'seif hadavar. After all the cheshbonis, after all the details and all the planning, at the end of the day, hine ki'ilu hu asher chayiv lehem toidos al kol ha'she'asu lo. Yosef is actually thanking his brothers for everything that they did to him. You think I'm upset with you, said Yosef? I'm so thankful to you. You sent me to Mitzrayim. You made me second in command to Paro. I saved the day over here. I'm a leader. I'm not angry with you. Thank you very much for everything that you did. You thought you ruined my life. You thought that you destroyed me. You thought you made things terrible. No, not at all, says Yosef. You are the ones that are responsible for my success. Yosef's not just saying over chewing the rag over here. Yosef smooths over the entire sin of the brothers, and he says, I am obligated to you. I must serve you, says Yosef, for everything that you did. It's all in the mind. It's all your perspective. A person can be your biggest enemy, or they could be your greatest advocate. The situation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts a person in life could be the most devastating situation that a person has ever gone through. or could be exactly the thing that is going to build them up and make them great and bring out the koiches, bring out the potential that's inside the neshama that would never be able to be brought out any other way. This person could be your foe or your friend. They could be your destroyer or they could be your builder. It all depends how you want to look at it over here. If Hakol b'yedei Shemaim, everything is in the hands of heaven. Everything is in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. Chutz mi'yirah Shemayim. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know very well everything that I should go through in my life. You don't make any mistakes. Every person that comes into my life is exactly coordinated by you to be there at that time, in that place, exactly that moment. And every situation, and every struggle, and every challenge, and every nisoy, and every test, everything, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are the one that is decreeing. You're the Melech, you're the King of the universe. You're decreeing it all. And I don't push it away, I embrace it. Like Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik, at the end of the day, Rabbi Yerucham says, he was telling his brothers, angry? Chas v'shalom. A Yid would get angry? A Maimin, someone who believes in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will get angry what somebody else does to him? Chas v'shalom. I'm gracious to you. Thank you, my dear brothers, for ruining the last 20... No, you didn't ruin the last 22 years of my life. You enhanced the last 22 years of my life. You brought me to a place I never would have been before. And Klal Yisrael is going to become a nation as a result of this. You think it was you? It wasn't you. It was Allah Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this is the way that a person is supposed to go through their life. We are emotional beings. And we very often react in an emotional way. Immediately. Impulsively. Instantaneously. Somebody says something, somebody does something, something happens in our lives. Right away, where the emotions are kicking in. Yosef separated his intellect, his emunah, from his emotions. And as a result of that, he teaches us the greatest lesson of all time. That Hakol b'yedei Shemaim, literally. It's not just a nice, when Chazal say statements, they're not just saying like cute statements that'll look good on your bumper sticker. It'll look good on a calendar. I remember Ralph's, one year they sent out a calendar for the high holidays. And it was all famous quotes from Jewish sages. And it was many quotes from like Pirkei Avos and the Gemara and everything. It's not a quote for a calendar from Ralph's. When Chazal speak, they're telling you the emes, they're telling you the truth. And when a person ends up grasping and embracing the truth as they explain it, it changes the way that we think, the way that we look at things. And that is, there's nothing in my life that is bad. Everything is actually good. It all depends the way that I'm going to look at it, how I will embrace it, how I will understand it, and how I will live with it, and how I will use that moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given me to grow and become somebody greater. But that's up to the person. Says Rashi on the Gemara, I could do that for you as well, says Hashem. I could give you the strength without you doing anything to be able to accept all of my decrees, but I got to give you something in this world. So I've given you your bechira, your free will, to decide how are you going to embrace that decree that I've given you. Will you be like a Yosef HaTzadik? Will you be like a Mrs. Iris Chaim? Will you be like a person who has gone through suffering? Will you be like the soldier, the one that was killed in action, who left in his last will and testament, if you're reading this letter, that means that I must have been taken captive or I died in captivity. And he said, I don't want you to feel bad for me. You should know that I'm very happy. If that's the way that I left this world, I left the world defending our people and our nation. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted from me. And if I was taken hostage, don't you dare, he writes, don't you dare trade a single terrorist for me. Leave me there. because we must continue going on and doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. How do we look at it? It's all up to us. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'll make the decrees, I'll set your height or your shortness, your money, your wealth, your poverty, I'll make it all. You're just going to embrace it. And you're going to decide what to do with it. And when a person does that, they end up living a totally different way of life. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us this strength that everybody is looking for during this time. There's a lot of conflicting messages that are out there in the world. It's really not Hamas versus the IDF. It's really HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. That's really what's going on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one decreeing everything and taking care of everything and setting everything exactly the way that He is. There are shluchim, there are messengers that are in the world. They are doing the job that they are supposed to do. But like Yosef says, you thought you were doing your job, but you're really doing the job of Hashem. Because Hashem runs everything. And I'll leave you with this last story. There's a story that was just recently released that goes back to October 7th. You know, they were zeiche to stop many of the terrorists on that day. And many of them they caught as well. And they were able to interrogate them and find out more information about how this whole plan ended up coming about. And as we mentioned previously, they found on many of the terrorists, those that were killed and those that they brought into prison, they found maps of the places where they were going. They found all the details of different families, who was in this house and that house, and communities and shuls and yeshivas. And you should know that they had plans to come as far down as they possibly could have come down, to be able to go into the yeshivas on Simchas Torah and kill hundreds and thousands of people on that day. So I heard this is from the head of Zaka. He said the people that died in the rave in that music festival, you don't realize what a chesed their death was for Klal Yisrael. Because the terrorists got so caught up over there, and by the time the army got over there, they were able to put a stop to the movement. They literally ended up saving thousands and thousands of lives of the Jewish people, because these terrorists were planning on going into some of the biggest neighborhoods on Simchas Torah and wiping out all of the Jews. So although there was a terrible tragedy of several hundred at the music concert, but their being there ended up saving the lives of thousands and thousands of more Jews that were there. And therefore the head of Zaka called them Kedoshim. They are holy martyrs of the Jewish people who died for being Jews and saved many, many people in Klal Yisrael. They caught a terrorist on October 7th. And they find on his body a map of the city of Tifrach. Tifrach, for those of you that don't know, I was there once, many, many years ago, as I was a Bach in Eretz Yisrael. Once I was there. It is a city that the only thing in that city is Torah. That's all that's there. There's yeshivas, there are kollels, there are shuls. There's no gashmias, there's no materialism. Everybody lives in a simple, tiny little apartment. All that there is Torah, Torah, Torah. The yeshiva of Tifrach is a large yeshiva with 800 plus boys that are there. And on Simchas Torah, these terrorists had in mind that they're going to come in and they are going to run into that yeshiva. And this terrorist had on him a picture of the building, the front of the building, the side of the building, different doors. They had the zman and the times of davening, when there's going to be akafas, when they're going to be dancing, when there's going to be a kiddush. They had all the information. They knew it all. And so this terrorist had planned that he was going to have 5 terrorists go to one doorway, 5 go to another doorway, 5 go to another one, and he and a group were going to come in from the front doors, and they were going to walk in the middle of the akafas of the dancing, and they were going to kill every last yeshiva man and bacher that was there. But they never went into Tifrach. They got to Tifrach and they moved on. So the interrogator asked this terrorist, you had all the information. You had the maps. You had the times. You knew everything that's going to happen. You planned on going into the yeshiva and killing everybody. Why didn't you go in? So he says, I'll tell you the truth. We got to the gates of the city, and we were about to break down the gates and go inside and do our plan. And as we're getting closer, I look towards the big yeshiva building, and I see flames of fire and smoke coming out of the top of that building. And I said to myself, if the building is already on fire and it's burning down, why should we waste our time and our energy and our ammunition on a building that anyway is burning down? Let's go move on to the next settlement and go there instead. So they said, fire? Flames? Smoke? The building is standing. There was no fire there. So the terrorist said again, I'm telling you, when we got to the gates and we looked at the building that we were about to go to, there were flames of fire and smoke shooting out of the top. We realized it's burning down, so we left. It was Simchas Torah. And at the time that the terrorists came and they looked at the building, there were 800 of maybe the elite of Klal Yisrael's yeshiva boys and men in Kollel, dancing around the Torah, dancing and singing and dancing. And the Torah's Eish is fire. And the fires of the Torah went out through the roof. And this terrorist was able to see a miracle. They saw a building that was engulfed in flames. And they moved on. And they went away. And they let these people live. And they went someplace else. Because Hakol B'yidei Shemayim. Every little thing in a person's life is in the hands of heaven. If the yeshiva of Tifrach was supposed to be murdered that day, it would have been in the hands of heaven. But in the hands of heaven, they decided to make fire and smoke shoot out of the roof. So that even the lowliest of terrorists, whose whole kavanah, whole intention was kill the Jews, even he was thrown off and he moved down the street to go someplace else. If we will just recognize in our lives that everything that is happening is all the Rebbeinu Shalom, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I entrust you with one thing in your life and one thing only. What is your response going to be? Says Yosef at Tzaddik, Tachas Elokim ani. Am I in place of Hashem? I don't know why you did what you did. I don't understand what your intentions were. One thing I know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a big plan. And his plan was with a purpose. And because of that, I'm not angry with you. I'm grateful to you. And I love you, said Yosef at Tzaddik. Im Yetz Hashem, if we will allow the intellect and the neshama and the spirit to override the lowliness of our emotions, the raw emotions that so often get in the way of our decisions, we will then be able to stop being angry and frustrated and upset and disappointed and down in the dumps and despair. And we will be the hopeful people like a Yosef HaTzadik. The man was by himself for 22 years. And when his father Yaakov Avinu sees him, Oy Yosef Chai, he realizes Yosef is the same tzaddik that he was when he left me 22 years ago, but even a bigger tzaddik. And you become a bigger tzaddik when you embrace Hakol B'yidei Shemayim. In Yetz Hashem, may we see only brachas in our life, see only goodness from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and realize that everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does send us is all a chesed Hashem. Hashem has a plan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a purpose. He's manipulating the world around us to bring us to that purpose. May we see the ultimate purpose come very soon with the Bias Goyal Tzedek B'Meira B'Yameinu.